My father and my uncle, they used to drink together, fight with the fists, and they used to love each other and hated each other. In the end of their lives, I think as a children they loved each other, but then later on it developed in a very extreme bitterness. And both of them, they died with that bitterness. There is no happy end in that story. They never have reconciled. And I can see there was a desire for reconciliation. And me as a child, I was in between two, because I loved both my father and my uncle. So sometimes my father is more intellectual, he was an engineer and he was more educated and more intellectual. Uncle resented that like anything. With every opportunity, he will point out, oh, this man, he has so much vanity and so much pride because of his education. But my uncle was very good with hands. Like he was very good, welder. And one time he was drunk and then he slept in the snow and then he got his fingers frozen. So those fingers got amputated. So he was actually without the fingers, the 4 fingers were out. But he was still so handy. He was, welding and everything. His house was beautiful. His garage was beautiful. So I was very fascinated with his ability, with his hand to create something. So I would spend time with my father. I would spend time with my uncle. Every time I'm there, uncle is just spitting poison against my father. And my father is not saying anything. But he's kind of, one time he said, I don't like, when you go to him. He's my enemy. You are going to him. I said, Father, he's your brother. He said, no, you don't understand. He's my enemy. So that is the hatred. Another side of the coin of love. Actually, there is a desire for love. Actually, there is a desire for unity. But something happened. Something one has said, or some jealousy, this and that, it turns into poison. It turns into hatred. So let us discuss today what are the evolution, what is the ontology of hatred. And I will tell you many stories today from my personal life, also from history. I will tell the stories. And then hopefully after this video we understand how to resolve this hatred. Anger, resentment, and hatred. This is one kind of line. This is one kind of evolution. And we are angry with somebody, but we are destroying ourselves with that. You are not hurting anyone with your hatred or anger. You are hurting yourself. So we need to figure out how to be liberated from that jail, from that prison. Because hatred is extremely unnatural. It is so energy consuming. It's very difficult to live with hatred. So it goes like this. First, anger. For some reason, you are angry. Maybe your boundaries were violated. Or maybe because of jealousy. Or maybe your pride was hurt. Or maybe you wanted something, you didn't get that. Or maybe some attachment was broken. You are angry with some reason. Then if that anger actually is the desire for reunification. I want to hear your apology, so we are again good together. And if that anger has not been resolved in a proper way, it has not evolved again into peace, then it goes into resentment. What is resentment? In Latin, resentire. It means again and again feel. Feel that pain again and again in yourself. Many times experience that anger. So that is resentment. It has become deeper, it has been internalized. And then final stage is hatred. Hatred is much colder feeling. I don't want your apology. No. Now apology cannot fix anything. It's too late for that. I just want you to be out of my life. I want you to stop existing. Get out of my world. That is the hatred. If you look from the biopsychology point of view, which is the yogic psychology, we understand hatred lives in Manipura chakra, in the navel part. Here we feel it. And it is a reaction of an organism. Like, for example, there is some blob of some kind of some liquid, unpleasant liquid, and you touch it with your hand. You feel like, there is a repulsion. So original stance of that hatred is a repulsion. And it is like a protection of the body, of an organism. God knows, maybe it is poisonous. So, and that when you get into the mental level, that repulsion becomes hatred. You represent danger for me. I want you to be out of my life. So what are the reasons for anger, resentment, and hatred? One reason is real. You can say that hatred is legitimate because there is a ground. Real harm that I have endured. I received physical harm, or I have received psychological harm. So, and I'm angry. So what is the way out? There is one story I tell you. There was, in Rwanda, there was this very tragic events when the Hutu were destroying the Tutsis. Like one, same country, same language, but two populations, different little bit with the form of the nose. Different, like different physical appearance. So one population was destroying another population. They started to propagation. There was one radio station which was broadcasting, saying that those, Tutsis, they are like cockroaches. They basically don't deserve to live, and because of them we have all the problems like that. And then at one point it erupted, and then the one population started to kill and exterminate another one. And there was one girl. Her name was, I think, Imankule. So she ran to the house of the pastor, and he was Hutu. And 8 women came there into his house seeking refuge. And then he, with a great fear, because everybody who is supporting them is going to be punished. So with a great fear, he hid them in their house. He put them in the toilet. Imagine, toilet, 1 meter, 20 centimeters square. Small space. 8 women standing in that toilet for 91 days. At the same time, hearing everything, all the screams outside, hearing that somebody whom they know, their relatives, their family is getting destroyed. And then there was one very scary moment. One of those thugs, with a machete, came inside the house of the pastor, and then started to search everywhere. And then he came to this toilet, put the hand on the handle, and almost opening the door. At that moment, this girl, she was praying so intensely to God that, please, if you do exist, let him not open this door. And then he said to the pastor, you are Hutu, so we trust you. And then he stopped opening this door. Then they went out. So for 91 days, they were eating some crumbs of leftovers he was bringing and giving to them, because he was afraid even of his own family, his own servants, because God knows, if they say one word, the thugs will come, they will make an apocalypse there. So for 91 days, they had to sit on each other. When they need to move, they have to move in synchronicity. Sometimes angry with each other, getting irritated how somebody breathes, how somebody is, So in that 91 days, And after they were released, after the Tutsi army came and then, stopped this genocide, then they came out, they couldn't walk. But the first thing this girl wanted, she said, bring me to the main perpetrator of this atrocity. And when they brought her, she said, I forgive you. And then, people were enraged. How you can forgive such a man, such a bad man? She said, forgiveness and responsibility is two different things. I can forgive. It doesn't mean that he should not bear the responsibility, but I can forgive. Because my whole life was destroyed. My family is destroyed. The only thing was left to me is my soul. And I don't want to destroy my soul also with hatred. So, therefore, I forgive. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela, there was this apartheid regime when the black population was oppressed for many years. Totally different sets of rules for the white and for the black. So there was lots of resentment. But Nelson Mandela, he didn't revenge on the white population. Instead, he has organized a committee for truth and reconciliation. So what is important when the harm was done is to accept that harm was done. Not to deny it, not to minimize it, but to accept, yes, it has been done. So this was going on with them. Accept, this is the truth. This is what have happened. In my also personal experience, I also feel when the person who has mistreated me accepts the responsibility, accepts that what happened, I feel already like I can forgive. But even if that doesn't happen, sometimes a person will never forgive you. I give you one spiritual way how to overcome your resentment. There is one practice called Guru Puja. It's actually you addressing the Supreme Entity, the cosmic consciousness, as Guru, as your divine teacher. And then you imagine flowers in your hands. And singing mantra Akhanda Mandala Karam from Guru Gita, you offer this flower to that Supreme Guru. And that flower represents your desire, what I want. So when you are angry with somebody, what do you want? You want this person realize, even the revenge, when you want to hurt somebody in response to him hurting you, what you want? You don't really want to hurt. You want this person to realize how much he has hurt you, right? This is what you want. You want the truth, awakening of the truth. That's your desire. So if you can, sometimes we cannot receive it. Sometimes people don't apologize for 30 years, for 50 years. So if I cannot receive it, let me give up this desire. God, I'm giving this to you as a present. He should apologize before you. I don't need his apology. I am becoming free from that. So this is one spiritual way how to deal with that. Another thing why people are getting resentment is jealousy, like Mozart and Salieri. When Salieri first time heard the music of Mozart, he realized the caliber of the genius of that man. And then he just couldn't take it. And then from that day, he started to somehow obstruct the Mozart, weave some intrigues against him, things like that. But the real reason it was admiration, which person couldn't admit to himself. That actually he is admiring. Actually, he was the only one at the moment who could really understand the true genius of the Mozart. So the way out of this type of hatred is when you start admitting to yourself, yes, I want to minimize, I build all the structures in the mind, that, or he is successful because, you know, his parents are very rich, or he is successful because he just got lucky. He doesn't deserve this kind of genius that God has bestowed on him. Why he should have that? So instead of those structures, those are protective structures to minimize him, not to feel that pain of inadequacy. Why not me? Why I wanted? This is really the best thing that I want in the world. Start openly admitting and start admiring, openly admiring. Just start repeating it. I admire this quality. This person is very talented singer. Or this person is just beautiful. I admire her beauty. I would like to also be like that, beautiful. If you start speaking that admiration, the brain will change, and it will dissolve. Slowly, slowly, that resentment will dissolve. Admit it. Third reason is the fear for your identity. There is a threat to your identity. When somebody is speaking to me, saying something, some feedback, Dada, you were wrong with this. If I am very strong in my identity, if I'm very much rooted, that's another big topic. How to maintain your identity in a proper way. Like if there is a very deep identity, connection with all your ancestors, all your and deep understanding of who am I, and deep belief in your worth, in your goodness, then nobody can really shake it. But if that identity is fragile, then there is a fear of identity. If you are right, I may be wrong. I hate to be wrong. I cannot admit any fault of mine. So instead of admitting my own fault, I will hate you. You understand? So instead of me admitting my own shortcomings, I will rather project all the problems on you, and I will hate you. Then there is disdain. The people whom I hate, or person whom I hate, is not even a human. So every human deserves love and forgiveness. But whom I hate is not even human. Doesn't deserve. Just eliminate, exterminate. Either push him out of your world, or, you know, harm the person, hurt the person. Get out of you are not worthy of existence. Many times it is connected with ideological hatred, because ideologically human beings, we are not really, it is not natural for us to harm anybody. It's not natural for us. It is the opposite of the belief. Yoga doesn't believe that human is bad, human is evil. No, humans, we are very good. It is very natural for us to be kind and, you know, friendly and loving. So but through some kind of ideological constructs in the mind, one group of people can feel superior to another group of people and hate others, and with a disdain. One example, there was this musician, black complexioned musician, Daryl Davis. And then one time, after his performance, one white man came to him and, you know, he shook his hand. You know, really, your music is very fantastic. I respect that. And that was the first time in his admission, because he was the member of the Ku Klux Klan. And then it was first time he shook the hand of the black person. And then this Daryl Davis, he started to, you know, appear in his life. And then he said, you know, how you can hate me even if you don't know me? Just spend time with him. He consciously go in the contact with him. Eventually, this man broke. He said, I'm leaving the Ku Klux Klan, and I'm giving this my white clothes to you as a souvenir, as a token, because I realized I saw the ideology, which is the imagery. You are just you are fighting with imaginational entities. But when I see a real man, real human being, kind, honest, good, I just cannot hate anymore. So this also, according to yoga psychology, hatred is one of the bondages of the mind. And there is difference between enemies of the mind and bondages of the mind. Enemies of the mind are inborn, but bondages of the mind are imposed. And imposed, with enemies of the mind, you try to avoid the enemies. Like, for example, if you have desire to drink alcohol, it's not a good idea to go to the bar and fight with that desire. Better avoid that situation. Don't awaken that enemy within you. But with hatred is opposite. You go in contact with the person whom you hate. And if you are able to see a real person and not your imagination, that will go away. And the last reason is the self-hatred. I don't accept something in me. And when I see somebody else indulges in that, I also want to indulge. But I feel it is too shameful, too bad, so I suppress it. When I see somebody else does, I feel very much resentment. We had one brother in the monastery when I took training. He had this idea that a monk should only eat brown rice. I don't know where he got it. No vegetables, nothing, only brown rice he would eat. But sometimes he would break up into my storage room. I was food in charge. And I steal all the cheese, all the goodies, like some raisins and, and the prunes and, those kind of things. We had a limited supplies of those, so I distributed them. So sometimes he would just break and then steal all these things. But he resented very much. Like, he will say, "Oh, you are really like a pigs. You are indulging in all this tasty food and all this good food. You are eating and cooking and smelling, and I cannot tolerate your smells. You are worst kind of people." Constantly this was going on. So, for some reason, he was in a state of suppression. He also wanted to eat good food. But then with his intellectual idea, he didn't allow himself to do that. And when anybody allowed, because we don't have that idea, we like to enjoy the food. So when we enjoy, he really hated us at that moment. So there is something maybe in the childhood have happened, some shame. So you find something to be completely unacceptable. You hate it in yourself. When you see it in others, you also hate it. There was one brother. He came, with, very charged. Like, I want to be Avadhuta. Avadhuta is like kind of very senior monk and very kind of heroic type of personality. This is the only goal I find acceptable in my life. And I was getting inspired. I thought, wow, this is good, good. But I was a little bit worried because before he was narrating the stories of his military service. And normally I hear people with a fondness and good heart, they speak about the difficult experiences of the past. But for him, everybody around him was worst kind of person. All this military system is worst kind of system. So very negative kind of memories and negative descriptions of his experiences. I got a little bit worried about that. Then he went into something called SPT, Sadhana Pitta training. It's a strong training where 1 week you have to be quiet, you don't speak, ideally you should beg for your food, but we didn't send them to beg, we just give them some, we allocate some food. So you cook that food on the fire, and then you eat only once a day, you're allowed to eat, and you wear some kind of, some bed sheet or some blanket around your body, only one thing you wear. And you live in a discomfort, you live in outside in the forest they used to live for 1 week and keep quiet and meditate all the time. So after this, he completely broke and he became so toxic. So toxic, finally he left us, and then later on he started to prosecute us. That, you know, like you are like worst kind of people, you are hypocrites and things like that. So you see the mechanics. So the person in the state of hatred to himself, he is looking to a new identity. I will be Avadhuta. I will be a saint. I will be, you know, enlightened being, like that. Then you break your teeth. You go into this situation where you feel so many vulnerabilities, and you are just seeing that I am not able to control my mind. I'm not like what I imagine myself. I'm not like that ideal. I already want to be there. I want to put there. I want that respect. I want that image, but I'm not. So you come in touch with your own self, and you break. And you go, and instead of admitting that is the stage, you live in a lie, in a state of light. Then you confront with reality. Now it is healing. Now it is resurrection. You can become a new man. But instead of accepting your own faults, you choose to project it on others. Other people are bad. It's not I have failed, because he didn't even fail. It is in his mind he has failed. It is you all have failed. So this is how it works. And it maybe sometimes we say that, no, I don't have hatred. But there are signs, some irritability, just because of some small things. I get irritated with the person. Or I am avoiding a person without any obvious reason. Some kind of constant tension. Sometimes unexpected tears are coming. So these are symptoms that maybe you're storing something inside. And if you're storing, there is a way out of it. Like if really somebody harmed you, just name it. Write one letter. Don't send that letter. But write one letter to the person who have harassed you. And explain all the things, what he has done, how you have felt. Give it to the paper. Express it all. It will happen. When you bring it into the area of awareness, it helps. If you are taking it out of your unconscious mind, you are bringing it into your awareness. If you are angry because of jealousy, start admiring it openly. Admit to yourself, I would like to have. Like, the two brothers were there and one hated another. So one brother has died and another brother continued to hate him. So he came for the therapy, and then the therapist asked him, so what is irritating you in your brother? Yeah, because he is successful, people love him, he doesn't deserve all of that. And he said, but do you want that also? He said, yes, I want it. So admit, I want this. Yeah. Then fear of loss of identity. You're criticizing me, you are destroying my identity, my self-image. So how you fight with that? Make your identity stronger. One way to make your identity stronger is through service. When you do acts of kindness, when you do acts of goodness, without any, getting money in return and things like that, just out of your good heart. If you do it constantly, it strengthens your identity like anything. Nobody can convince you later that you are a bad person. You are internally, you are getting convinced that you are good, you are fundamentally good. Nothing can shake it. Meditation. When you meditate, it is actually experience in meditation. Many times also tears comes, all these feelings, they unlock, and then it comes as a tear, the purification of the mind happens. And in meditation, you are able to experience also love. Love for everybody. And if you love, then you also deserve to love. It's like an unconscious scenario. If you hate, you also feel that I am also disliked or hated. It really destroys your identity. But when you're able to feel love to others, feel love to yourself, you will come to conclusion, actually I exist. God has brought me to this world. It means He believes that I am worthy of existence. So you believe that I am worthy of love is a change of identity. So make your identity stronger. Sometimes we hate, like people, they go from one identity to another. Like they get some problem with their religion, they go into another religion, while hating their previous religion. Or let's say denying your language, your nationality, or something like this. I feel I'm ashamed of who am I, of my ancestry. Or for example, I don't ever talk about my parents because I feel ashamed. My father was a drunkard. I'm ashamed of that. I cannot say that. I cannot admit that. So it's like you are destroying your identity. You're trying to build another image, but that image doesn't have ground. It doesn't have roots. If you're cutting your roots, your legs, you are just in the air. And your identity is so fragile without admitting, yes, my father was a drunkard. Yes, my father was very abusive. And he did some violence, this and that. But he was my father. And he had many good things. You have admitted whatever. But it gives you very strong roots. You are not just somewhere in the air. And that strong identity makes you really immune to challenges. Yeah, like I think for myself, I came into spirituality not as an antithesis to something. First, I was in Christianity. I think I was always having good attitude to Christianity. But then I was searching for something I always wanted to find meditation. So when I found meditation, then I started to practice. Then I found in internet, a very strong kind of poisonous criticism towards us by some Christian denomination. And I had the resentment. Why you are mudslinging? Why you are, slandering us? So, and then there was some resentment building, and I was trying to reject. No, I'm not Christian. But later on, that was still fragile. But later on, the integration have happened. I feel, no, this is my roots. I'm evolving from Christianity. So it is also part of me, will always be part of me. Yes, I am a yogi, I am a meditator, but I cannot reject part of me. It is always there. It is with me. I have to accept it. That gives me the strength to love all the Christian people. And, talk. One time we had a talk with the priest also. We talk, and I feel genuine love. I feel I'm wishing good to them. So this is like you accept yourself, and that is a very strong base. If you don't accept yourself, don't accept your roots, you're going to hate. Because hatred is the way to preserve your fragile identity. Then disdain, come closer to the person. See a real person, not your ideological construct. Ideology, change the ideology. The ideology of hatred changed to the ideology of love. I have in this channel, it's called neo-humanism. That's the ideology of love, to see the divine in everybody. And then self-hatred. I love this shloka. It is called one verse in Sanskrit. Hararmi pita gauri mata, swadesha bhuvana trayam. Supreme consciousness is my father. Nature is my mother. And three worlds, physical, mental, and spiritual, is my motherland. So supreme consciousness is an ideal, perfection. So I'm striving to perfection, but I'm imperfect. That is the conflict. So you have to also love your mother, nature. And nature is there, millions of defects. I am lazy, I am this, I am that. Love yourself as you are, but strive to the ideal. Make an effort, practical effort. This is the proper balanced attitude. So in this way, you will overcome self-hatred. In the end, I want to tell you one story of my friend, real story of transformation. He came to us in a strong kind of denial. Already not to us, he first was in Christianity. Then he didn't like somehow. Then he went into some kind of paganism, believing in, the native ancestral gods and things like that. And there was a strong, criticism to Christianity, denying Christianity like a very, worse kind of thing. Then he came to us to practice meditation. He learned meditation. But he had some very peculiar hatred to, it was in Russia, and then whoever has non-Slavic appearance, he didn't like them, hated them. And many times, because our ideology is universalism. We love everybody, not only human beings, but we also love trees and animals and plants. So I spoke with him many times. I say, why are you doing like that? That is not natural, this kind of hatred you have. He said, no, Dada, you don't understand. They have invaded, they have immigrated in our country and they are, destroying our racial purity and things like that. They have to be driven out of this world. Like this he was telling. And then many times I was trying to convince him, no, this is not proper thing, not proper thinking. He didn't agree. He built his muscles, and then he would, learn how to throw the knives into the target. He was preparing for something. And so one day, but he was meditating. So this is one thing I want to make a point. If you meditate and you can go through the course, it is completely, we give for free this course, the meditation course, Consciousness of Outstanding Personality, it is called. I will leave the link below. You start practicing meditation. Meditation is like plowing the field of consciousness. And slowly in that the field, you don't understand, but changes are happening. Slowly, the need for love replaces the need for hate. So he was meditating, still believing the same things. And now he was in one city called Arsenyev in Far East Russia. And he got late for the bus, and then he decided to walk by walking 10 kilometers. It is winter, it is cold, it is dark. So he's walking. Now, a car stops. And then one person, which is a little bit dark, the dark eyes and dark eyebrows. And then he said, brother, come sit, I will bring you. He said, no, you go your own way, I have my way. But this person, he doesn't get satisfied with that answer. He said, no, please sit. Why you are going to be cold? Sit in the car. So finally he get convinced, he sit in the car. So 10 kilometers they need to go, and they go completely quiet with, intensity inside, He just doesn't accept that person. He is rejecting. And then suddenly, this driver, he asks, brother, do you believe in God? He said, yes. And then he said, yes, you should believe in God. Because God is everywhere. He is in you, He is in me. Now He is in me and He is helping you through me. At that moment, when he heard that, then there is this stream of tears start to fall from his cheeks. It's like, that he cannot believe this anymore. This ideology of hatred, he cannot believe this anymore. He was trying to hold it with all his mind. He is trying to maintain that. But now he is seeing the real person who is helping him, who is kind to him. And then just tears are washing from his face. And then after that is gone. He is not anymore He doesn't have this racial prejudice or things like that. So I think this was beautiful transformation. Yeah, so this is the topic of hatred. And if you want to understand deeper, there is also one lecture about karma. Because in karma, understanding of karma helps us not only to forgive, but to radically forgive. There is one book called Radical Forgiveness. I like that book. So the main message is that people come to our life because we need them. Even when they come with a harm, actually, also many times in my life I experienced that I perceive initially something as a betrayal, as a harm, but later on I look at it and understand that it was extremely necessary for my evolution. If such person would not come to me, I would be stuck in my evolution. So I'm grateful actually for this what happened. So there was one lady. She was in German concentration camp in the Second World War. So one Nazi officer, he was really torturing her. But after the war, she was doing some master classes on forgiveness. So that officer came to her class. And then he came to her and she got almost like frozen, paralyzed. Still all that resentment came into her. And then he said, you know, I found God, I found religion, and God has forgiven me. Can you forgive me? So at that moment, she tries to raise the hand, and he's extending the hand to her. And she wants to extend her hand to him, but body is paralyzed. She cannot move her hand. So she is internally praying to God, I cannot forgive. I cannot raise my hand. Please help me to raise my hand. And that moment she is able to raise the hand, and she's shaking the head of that, her persecutor, her torturer. And that moment there is a flood of bliss and release and happiness and tears. Everything comes at once. So there is a finale of karmic play. You know, that's sometime before we believe in reincarnation, we hurt somebody. Today that somebody came in form of our persecutor to harm us. So, and this is the most beautiful resolutions of all the karmic knots. True forgiveness, true love. She could say, no, you don't deserve forgiveness. You're below human being. I will not raise my hand. But she chose differently. She chose to forgive and to love. So, yeah. So I advise you to watch also the video about karma. It's good. So my question is, whom do we really hate? Write in the comments. Let us discuss this topic. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again very soon.